Yeah, so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that little perfect piece where everything intersects: location, type, condition, and all right, so what do I mean? Okay, so we're talking about type, condition, location. All right, so these are the three things, aside from budget, that you're gonna wanna really sit down and figure out, okay? You're gonna wanna figure these out. And, it's inevitable that if you're not buying alone and you have someone else that's buying with you, say a husband, a wife, or whoever, there's gonna be disagreements, okay? There's gonna be disagreements, all right? So basically, here's what we're discussing. Type. I mean, condo, townhouse, co-op, single family detached house, multifamily, right? So those are your options, okay? So what are the differences between those? Okay, what are the differences? So let's start with the condo, okay? The condo is a bit like an apartment, okay? So it is included in a community, and I think the one sort of distinguishing feature of a condo that you typically don't have with single family houses is that you do have usually a homeowners association. So there is basically an agreement between all of the owners to take care of all of the common pieces of the property. And so then there's sort of joint finances in that way. So you're teaming up with all the other owners. You're making sure that you maintain the property. The other thing that typically ends up being a part of your HOA dues are things like sewer, water, garbage. They're just kind of all community expenses. And so then you have, your HOA dues. People don't really like those very much, okay? But they make a lot of sense, okay? In a townhouse, you can have that situation where there are some HOA dues, and typically what ends up happening in townhouses is the owner of the townhouse unit is responsible on their own for more of the maintenance of the property, and they're not kind of coming in together on it. And so then the HOA dues tend to be less. But you do typically have HOA dues for those joint expenses like water, sewer, garbage, okay? And maybe some common area maintenance. It depends. It kind of varies, all right? All right. Then we're talking co-ops. Do you want to be a part of that? Basically, what a co-op is it's a bit like a condo, except what you're doing is you're basically buying into the business that is the whole entire condo community. Okay, I don't want to confuse you by calling it a condo, but it's a bit like buying into that building, and then in exchange you get to lease one of the units. All right. Similar, they do have HOA dues. They have common expenses. The one difference though is that the co-op has a little bit more control over who they allow into their community. So they interview you. They want to look at your finances and all of that stuff. So the situation ends up being a little bit different with the co-op. And, they're not as common here in Washington State, but they are out there. They are out there. So the next one we're talking about are the single family detached houses. Okay, so typically these have a yard. It's kind of like that, sort of house that you sort of envision, when people are yeah, I'm gonna buy a house. All right, so it's on some land. And one of the really distinguishing features is that you're responsible for everything. Okay, so you're gonna be responsible for all the interior maintenance, exterior maintenance, the lawn, the complete upkeep, okay, because there's no homeowners association there to manage it. So you're responsible for everything, okay? And the last one I want to hit on is multifamily. So multifamily, how I'm going to define it here, though there are multifamily, right? You could have 300 units, all right? We're talking about the multifamily that is considered single family. All right, so these are your duplexes, your triplexes, and your quadplexes, okay? So these units operate a lot like a single family residence, except what you can do is you have the option to rent out one of the units, okay? So, if you had a duplex, you could rent out your other side, and then you could generate some rental income. Now, here's the deal. because you own that whole entire property, you're responsible again for everything. So you would make sure as the owner that you're keeping up with the roof, all the exterior maintenance, interior maintenance, water, sewer, garbage, all of that's your responsibility because there's no HOA. So, you know, there are pros and cons to this, all right? So there are some real clear advantages. I mean, obviously, if you have rental income, you can, you know, decrease the amount that you need to contribute to the mortgage. The other thing that you can do that's really common is people will purchase these as single family dwellings, and then after a certain period of time, rent out their units. So like, let's say you bought a fourplex, then you would have 4 rental units. And then as the owner, again, you would, you know, maintain all of those things unless you had some type of agreement with your renters, okay? So those are really the options when we're talking about type of housing, okay? And there are a lot of options. Sometimes you're gonna just be restricted by your budget. So, you know, we're looking at, you know, like that perfect Venn diagram, you know, of, you know, budget, type, condition, you know, like, and we're trying to look for like that little itty bitty place where everything overlaps and you're like, okay, these are the things that I'm looking for. Because here's the thing, there are a lot of houses, okay? All right, so yeah, so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that little perfect piece where everything intersects: location, type, condition, and price, okay? So, that is it for my video today, YouTube. If you have not already, please subscribe to my channel, like the video, and I will see you again soon, YouTube.